Okay, I'm going to try and set up Git source control in VS Code using Talon and doing my very best to not use my hands at all in this process. Um, Talon is powerful hands-free voice control, but it also is very customizable, and as a result, I am not very good at using the voice commands instead of getting frustrated and using my hands. So this is a challenge to me to not do that during the setup of this very critical component if you're going to be a computer programmer. So what is version control? Version control is the thing that when you mess up your source code allows you to undo and go back to something that works. For me, that's the killer feature, and I've never coded like that, and I want to, so I now need to set it up somehow without hands. I have found this how to use Git source control video tutorial, and I'm going to try going through it, and I'm going to try going through it without hands. During the course of this video, I am using the Talon community repository, the default commands that most instructions, including the ones that I put together, tell you to install. I'm also using several custom commands. Specifically, I'm using something called Rango, which I'll tell you about during the course of this video. I'm using my custom mousing voice mouse setup, which whenever I use it, I'll point that out. Anything that's not a default, I will use it. I will point that out. The other thing that I'm doing is you'll hear pretty much all of my commands prefixed by the word listen or dictate. Those two commands are custom commands that allow me to talk with my microphone on while telling you stuff without giving commands to the computer. That's also custom. Anyway, let's just try and get through this. First thing I have to do is figure out how to start the video. I believe there's a command called a media play, which I'm gonna try to do. Listen, media play. Listen, media pause. So the other thing that's going on is that you can't actually hear what the guy is saying because I've turned off the sound. But there are captions, which so far they're pretty good, and when the captions are bad, I will read them out loud to you. Actually, you know what, I'll just go ahead and read them out loud anyway. So the guy's saying we're going to use Git source control with Visual Studio Code, and that sounds like a great idea to me, so I want to keep going. Listen, media play. As someone with more of an infrastructure background, I ended up learning how to use Git integrated with VS Code before I learned any Git commands. This guy is not proficient with Git on the command line, but I've never used Git on the command line, and I really like an IDE like VS Code, so this seemed like the video for me. Listen, media pause. So it sounds like I have to have both VS Code and Git installed. I honestly don't know how to check that. I know how to check that I've got VS Code installed, and I can tell you how to check that if you have Talon installed by saying the following command. Listen, launch code. Yep, I have VS Code installed. Listen, window close. Probably, no, I don't even know if I have Git installed, but this sounds like a great way to explore this YouTube video and check out what I can see. Wheel down. Listen, wheel down. Listen, wheel down. Okay, cool. So I have scrolled down slightly to the description. And now it's time to talk about Rango. Rango is the thing that's putting those little letters beside every clickable link on this page. I've got it installed for Microsoft Edge. It is a delightful extension. It makes using Talon on a web page so much more useful. Because you see that ... more thing in the video description. If I manage to say the letters AG, or in Talon speak, air gust, I will be able to click on that ... more and open it and expand it. So let's go ahead and do that. Listen, air gust. Oh, the other thing I have set up right now is I have set Rango to explicit. So I actually have to say click air gust in order to click on that. That's not how Rango comes. Rango, by default, you just say air gust and it would click, but I wanted more control, so I set it to the command Rango explicit, and then so now I have to say click beforehand. Listen, click air gust. And there is the expanded description for this video. Wheel down. Listen, wheel down. So I'm scrolling. Listen, wheel down. Listen, wheel down. And it says a prerequisite is Git source code. So I'm going to go ahead and install Git because I'm just going to assume that I don't have it installed. This is like my 5th computer that I've set up with this, and it is very likely that since I don't really use Git, that I haven't ever bothered to install it. And now I get to explore clicking some more with Rango. Listen, click bat made. Okay. So, I need to download it for Windows. The letters might seem a little bit mysterious to you. I'm kind of assuming that you already have some Talon experience if you're watching this video, but maybe that's a bad assumption. And, so I'm gonna bring up the voice commands for the letters, the alphabet, the Talon alphabet. Listen, help alphabet. So, if I say help alphabet, it tells me all of the letters all of the words that correspond to letters. So I want to click on the link that says M. In order to do that, I need to say made. In order to click it, I need to say click, and then because I have this special listen command, I'll need to say the following. Listen, click made. Listen, help close. And I know how to do it, but another command that is very helpful to be able to look stuff up is the help search command. So if you're ever curious about, listen, help search alphabet. And there's the help alphabet command. I search for the word alphabet in the commands, and so if I forget how to look up the alphabet, I can say help search alphabet, and it will bring up the only command that has the word alphabet in it, help alphabet. Listen, help close. So I probably need to download Git. And that has an L beside it, so I need to say, listen, click look. And that downloads window, we're no longer in Rango land. There's no helpful letter beside it. How do I click? I developed my own special mousing system in order to do this. There's a default that comes with Rango, that comes with the community repository that I hate. So I built my own, and it's called the Dense Mouse Grid, and it's on my GitHub as the Dense Mouse Grid. But here's what it looks like. Listen, Dense Grid. And you can kind of see a big green one. You can kind of see a brighter side of the screen. The bright part of the screen is the section of the screen that is selected. And if I say drum, listen, drum, listen, drum, that's not working. Listen, one. Talon wake. 1. 2. Talon sleep. Drum. Listen, drum. Well, that's kind of annoying. So apparently my listen commands and my mouse grid commands do not play well with each other. Good to know. So I need to wake Talon up in order to use this grid. Talon wake. Drum. Talon sleep. So as you can see, when I said drum, it took line D in sector 2 and highlighted it. And now that line D is highlighted, and the red letters is where the mouse is going to end up when you say that letter. So if I said sit, my mouse would end up slightly above that blue open file link on that downloads window, which is not quite where I want it to be. Listen, bigger grid. Listen, bigger grid. Listen, bigger grid. Well, let's see if cap got there. Listen, cap. Talon wake. Cap. Touch. Touch. So with that kind of painful procedure, I was able to click on that link, and now I can allow this app to make changes to my device. Listen, tab. And now we've come to the point where I need hands, because this screen, this user account control screen, is obviously not letting me use Talon commands because my mouse grid has disappeared. And so far this procedure is forcing me to use hands at least once. That is a sad day. Talon wake. Tab. Well, I'm using my computer and I want Git for Windows, and I press tab to get to the yes button, and I press enter to say yes. And now we're back in hands-free land. Great, great, great. Talon sleep. Alright, so it's asking me to read the license. Nobody ever does. I just want to install it. There's a blue rectangle around the install button, which implies that if I say enter, it'll press the enter key and it'll just install, but I want to use the mousing system. So, Talon Wig, Pit, Plex, and that managed to Talon Sleeve, and that managed to place the mouse cursor right on the install button. And now I can press it by saying touch. Listen, touch. And so I finished the Git Setup wizard. It's helpfully left that button right underneath my mouse. And I'm just gonna say touch again to click finish. Listen, touch. So why is it asking me to open an HTML file? I don't know. But I'm gonna say, okay, I'll open it with Microsoft Edge. That's the highlighted one. So I just press the enter key by saying the command enter. Listen, enter. And it's talking all about Git, which I don't care about. But I have it installed now, so that's good. Listen, tab close. Listen, tab close. Listen, tab close. Listen, tab previous. Listen, tab previous. Okay, so now I have it. Now that I have Git and VS Code installed, I'm gonna go ahead and go back to the video. Listen, page up. So I just page up to the top again, and now I'm gonna say the media play command. Listen, media play. So huzzah, I have VS Code and Git installed, and now I can get started. Listen, media pause. So, it's telling me to open VS Code, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Listen, launch code. There, I have a brand new window of VS Code open, but let's return to the video. So in Windows, to switch back and forth between windows, you can use the, I can't remember what it's called, the Alt-Tab command, which opens a focuser window, but the Talon command for that is focus. Listen, focus. As you can see, it pops open a command, and now I can press enter and go back to the video I'm watching. Listen, enter. So it says, to start off, I'm going to want to run a couple of Git commands to configure some stuff. And, okay. Listen, media play. Listen, media pause. So it's going to ask me to configure some user information, which will, quote, be used across all repositories. And in the 10 years I've been, like, pretending I'm a programmer, I know that this step is important, and I've never understood why. But we'll do it anyway, just because we'll assume that there's a reason for it. Anyway. Listen, media play. Listen, media pause. So apparently having your name appear in Git commits is very important for reasons. But we'll set it up so that I have my name appearing in Git. I guess that's how you track who's changed what and why, what, where, when, why. It allows you to locate how changes are made, which allows you to do this magical thing called undo mistakes that you make. Huzzah. Listen, media play. Listen, media pause. So he's telling me to open a terminal in VS Code by, quote, clicking terminal, which means I get to use my mouse grid to go to VS Code and click on terminal. The reason I gotta open the terminal is so that I can run the git configuration command that signs my name to all of the hideous code I push out into the world. Lovely. Anyway, yeah, we were going to terminal. Listen, focus code. And looks like on my VS Code, at the very top there, listen, bat. Yeah. Talon wake. Bat. Near. Touch. Aha. So those dots are where Talon sleep. So those dots is where the across the top menu bar. File, edit, selection, view, all that jazz. There are more things that are supposed to go there, but if there's not enough space, they shove it into this menu. So I bet if I were to press the down arrow keys, it would highlight the terminal. With Talon, I can do that by saying, listen, go down. Listen, go down. Listen, go down. And now I've highlighted that terminal. Listen, enter. And I probably want a new terminal. Listen, new terminal. Listen, enter. Okay, so I've successfully opened a terminal. Let's go back to the YouTube video and see what I'm supposed to do next. Listen, focus. Enter. Listen, enter. Listen, media play. Listen, media pause. So I have no idea how to go and find this command and copy it and paste it like the guy just did in the video. But apparently I have to write git and I have to write config and then I have to write -- global and then user.name and blah blah blah. The nice thing about Talon is that I can spell all of this stuff out. Okay, so listen, focus. Listen, enter. Now, I want to be able to see this command that I'm supposed to be spelling out, so let's try and reposition the windows a little bit so that I can see both things at once. Listen, snap bottom. Alright, so that snapped my VS Code window to the bottom of the screen, which is just barely enough for me to copy that Git code, magic words, from the video into VS Code. Good enough. Listen, grid close. Okay, so I want to spell this all out. Listen, help alphabet. Listen, touch. Okay, so I'm in the terminal, and now I'm going to start spelling. Listen, gust, sit, trap, space. Listen, cap, odd, near, fine, sit, gust, space. Listen, dash, dash, gust, look, odd, bat, air, look, space. Listen, urge, sun, each, red, dot. Listen, near, air, made, each. Listen, help, close. Listen, space. Listen, help, symbols. Okay, so this is the symbols, which whenever you run across a letter that you don't know, you can kind of look up other keys on the symbols. Double quotes is not on this one, so I'm going to go to the next page of the help commands. Listen, help, next. Listen, help, next. Listen, help, next. And that is the least helpful set of symbols because there's no double quotes. Listen, help, next. Okay, so this is a problem with Talon. Listen, help, search, double. Okay, I'm just going to try the command double quotes and hope it works. It's probably going to stick 2 quotes in there because it's not where I thought it was. And I don't know how to look it up. Listen, double quotes. Okay, so that worked. Why did it work? I don't know. And then I want to do square brackets. Listen, help, symbol. Listen, help, close. Listen, help, symbol. So if I say the word square, it'll write out a square bracket. Or if I say left square, it'll write out a square bracket. Listen, left square. And then I want to write out my name. Listen, shift, trap. So shift is a capital T, and then air, red air. Listen, air, red air. And that's Terra. Listen, space. Listen, shift, red. Listen, odd, yank, sun. Listen, odd, yank, sun. Listen, right square. Listen, double quotes. Listen, wipe. So I just had to delete something, and I did that by using the keyword wipe. Listen, double quotes. And there's another double quote. Oh, it's double quote. Listen, help, search, double quote. Yeah, I don't know where double quote is hiding, but it's not accessible in the help menus anywhere. But it is a command that exists, and that is a frustrating thing about how the community repository is constructed, in that there are these hidden commands that do exist, but you can find in the source code. Not that I'm going to show you right now because this video does not deserve to be 2 hours long, but anyway, so I think I've done this command correctly. Let's go watch the video and see how the guy in the video is doing it, and see if I should be pressing enter. Listen, help, close. Listen, focus. Listen, enter. Listen, media play. listen, pause, listen, media, pause. Alright, so he pressed enter, and that's how it works. So I'm going to go back to VS Code and press enter. Listen, focus, code. Listen, enter. Alright, so apparently I've now put my name on every little change I make in source code. That'll be fun. So, now the next step of the video, listen, focus, listen, enter, listen, media, play. We're going to configure an email. Listen, pause, listen, media, pause. So let's go back to VS Code, listen, focus, code. And if it's like any other terminal I've ever used, if I press the up arrow, it'll copy most of that command. It'll copy the previous command specifically. So the command for that in Talon is go up. So let's try that. Listen, go up. And it did. Now I'm gonna delete stuff and follow what the email said. What the video said. Listen, focus. Enter. Listen, enter. Okay, to skip backwards 10 seconds in the YouTube video, on the keyboard I can press the word J. So if I say jury, which is Talon for J, it'll hopefully skip back 10 seconds. Listen, jury. And it did. Now I'm going to scroll down slightly. Listen, downer. Too much. Listen, scroll up. Listen, tiny down. Listen, tiny down. There. And now, okay, so that tiny down is scrolling the wheel down a tiny amount. So hopefully it is positioned that user.email command so that I can see it. Listen, focus. Listen, enter. Listen, clear word left. Listen, clear word left. Listen, clear word left. Okay, so those clear words commands allowed me to delete a bunch of it. And now I'm going to go back to spelling out this command. Listen, help alphabet. Listen, each made air sit look. Listen, sit. Listen, look. Listen, space. Listen, dub quote. Listen, square. Listen, trap, look, red, odd, yank, sun. Listen, at sign. Listen, gust, made, air, sit, look. Listen, sit. Listen, look. Listen, R square. Listen, dub quote. Alright, so I've spelled that out, and now I should press enter. Listen. That's not a valid email, though. Listen, go left. Listen, go left. Listen, dot. Listen, cap odd made. There, that's a valid email. Listen, go right. Listen, enter. Okay. That apparently is me configuring my global user email. Let's go back to the video. Focus. Listen, focus. Listen, help close. Listen, enter. Listen, media play. So I've specified the user email and my name. Okay, so we're supposed to get started with source control. So we close the terminal, listen file, listen media pause, Listen, focus code. Okay, so in order to get that, I have to pop open my grid again. Listen, dense grid. 2. Talon wake. Talon wake. 2. 2. Near. Near. Listen, bigger grid. Listen, smaller grid. Smaller grid. Smaller grid. Smaller grid. Pit. Pit. Sun. Pit. Sun. Okay. Talon sleep. I have just barely managed to position my mouse on that X in order to close the terminal, and I'm gonna say touch in order to close it. Listen, touch. Alright, so back to where I started. Let's go back to the video. Listen, focus. Listen, grid close. Listen, enter. Listen, media play. Listen, media pause. Page up. Listen, page up. So let's get back a little bit in the video by pressing the J key again. Listen, jury. So we close the terminal, and now on the left hand side of VS Code, going to click the source control icon, which is that little branch icon on the left. Listen, media play. Listen, media pause. Okay, so it's saying I can either open a folder or clone a repository, which hopefully the video will explain more about how that works as we go along. I vaguely know that opening a folder is like, oh, you have a folder that already has source control. Go open it and hook it up to your VS Code. And the other thing, cloning a repository, is basically like, go elsewhere and get a copy. Get a copy not just of the final draft of whatever you're doing, but every version that existed before. And that whole thing is a repository, I guess. We'll see. I said this with such confidence, but Git has always been a bit of a mystery to me, and I don't see any reason to not say so. Anyway, I'm just here for the killer feature of being able to undo my mistakes. So I need to go back to VS Code, and I need to maneuver my mouse hands-free to click that thing. Listen, focus. Listen, go back. So, sometimes the commands that you know make sense. And I just said go back, and it just maneuvered that thing to... I know, I want it on VS Code. Anyway. Listen, go right. Listen, enter. So I want... Well, VS Code's taking up half of my screen right now. I'm going to show you how to snap it to full screen and then snap it back to half screen so that we can see both the video and VS Code. But there are window control commands that you can use. I'll just demonstrate them really quick. Listen, snap full. Listen, snap left. Listen, snap bottom. Listen, snap right. Listen, snap top. Listen, snap bottom third. Well, that didn't work. Listen, snap bottom 2/3. That didn't work either. Anyway. But for the most common snap commands, you want to be able to snap to the full screen and snap to a half screen, or the top screen or the bottom screen. Listen, snap bottom left. Listen, snap top right. Listen, snap bottom right. Listen, snap bottom. Very useful, very, very good for positioning windows where you can actually see stuff and concentrate. You'll probably notice this is a very rambling video. It's because I can't concentrate, and the more I set up my computer environment to accommodate the fact that I have the attention span of a caffeinated squirrel, the easier it is to do. Anyway, I was back to clicking on the branching repository symbol, which is in the left hand corner, those 3 little circles with the 2 branching lines. Listen, dense grid. 1. Listen 1. Talon wake. Listen 1. 1. Quench. Air. Touch. Talon sleep. So, something that I'm experiencing right now is an actual bug in a program that I wrote, which is to say, or rather, 2 different programs that I wrote, they're clashing. For whatever reason, Talon does not, the 2 programs, the voice commands for 1, 2, and all of the letter commands like quench, they're not being heard unless I forget the whole listen command, turn Talon on, and just use the commands without that listen prefix, and then turn Talon off again. So, that drives me nuts. Anyway, quench. Talon wake. Quench. Talon sleep. The thing is, now that I'm here, I don't know exactly what the guy's going to do next in the video. So let's go back to the video and watch. Listen, focus. Listen, enter. Listen, media play. Listen, media pause. Okay, so what this guy's going to do next is he is going to clone a repository from his GitHub into something on VScode. And that sounds like a great idea. I want to do that. It is something that you have to do a lot in order to collect new Talon commands. So, this guy's gonna clone a repository, going to go to github.com and get a copy of code from github.com and stick it on his computer in VScode. And I think I want to do the same thing too. I want to get a better mouse. Which there are a couple better mice exist on my GitHub, so I will get the experience of not only going and getting a copy of that, but going and getting a copy of it under proper version control. Sounds delightful. Okay. Listen, media play. Listen, media pause. Anyway, I'm gonna close the grid. Listen, grid close. Listen, grid close. There we go. Listen, media play. Listen, media pause. Alright, this is as good a time as any to figure out how to navigate to my personal GitHub on github.com using some other Talon features. One of them is websites. And here's how you look up some really convenient website commands. Listen help context. So, this is every single command set available. It's not every command, because we've already seen previously in the video that dub quote isn't anywhere in here. It isn't accessible via the help, so there's other ones that you'll run into like that. But this is not going to be one of those. Listen help next. 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 Second to last page, on page 8 of 9, is this wonderful thing called websites and search engines. I might want that one. I might want another one. Listen help next. Listen help previous. Yeah, I probably want websites. Let's go ahead and look. Open it up and see if that's the one I want. Listen help 19. Okay. So, there's this command called open, and that user, the very first command at the top, this is a listing of commands. It says open, and then it says user.website. So that command open will open a particular website, which is a website that you can open if it happens to be on a list of websites that Talon knows about. How do you know which website Talon knows? Well, let's go back and search through that massive list of command sets until I spot the one that actually allows you to pop open a file that shows you which websites Talon has attached to particular voice commands. Listen help return. There's a way to make this a lot less than 9 pages, and that's with the help active command. It just shows all of the commands that are available in a particular environment. There's some commands that are only available on particular websites. There's some commands that are available all the time. There's some commands that are only available in VS Code. So if you say help active, it's only going to show you the commands that are currently available to you right now in this particular context. Listen help active. And so active context only right now. And because I'm doing this whole listen thing, it's only showing like 5 things you can do. Which are the commands that I can give from sleep, which are the things that I can dictate from sleep. But let's turn Talon on by waking it up, and it will show you a lot more active commands. However, I can't babble like this because it will suddenly respond to every last thing I'm saying. Listen, Talon wake. Talon wake. Help next. Help next. help previous, help search customization, help active, well, Talon sleep. I hope I didn't just lose my place in the video. Listen, focus. Nope. Okay, cool. Listen, help active. Listen, help active. Talon wake. Listen, Talon wake. Talon wake. Focus edge. Help context edit settings. Listen, Talon sleep. Listen, Talon sleep. Talon sleep. Okay, so the thing I was looking for is in the edit settings.talon section, and it's a command. A lot of things are hidden in CSV files. Things like the list of websites that Talon has associated with commands. So that particular the list of websites is actually just named websites.csv. And I think if I say customize websites, it will pop open in a text editor the list of all commands that Talon knows. All websites that Talon has associated with commands. Talon wake. Talon sleep. Listen, customize websites. And there she blows. So, the command Talon homepage goes to talonvoice.com. Talon Slack goes to the Talon Slack. The Talon Wiki goes to Talon Wiki. And there are a couple of other things that are just there by default, and one of those things includes GitHub. So if I just say the command open Talon, if I say the command open GitHub, it should go to my browser and open the web page called GitHub, because github.com is associated with the word GitHub. Now, it is possible to add your own websites, but yeah, I'm already rabbit holing a lot in this 10-minute setup video that is now approaching an hour. So let's pass over that for right now. And where am I? Oh yeah, I was gonna open GitHub. Listen, open GitHub. And there's GitHub. In fact, there's my GitHub. I'm already logged in. But if I go to github.com/TaraRoyce, or if I just click on look, it'll take me to my homepage with all of my various Talon repositories. Listen, help close. Listen, help close. Listen, look. Listen, click, look. Listen, click, capsun. Well, I'm on my home page, but it's not showing me all of my repositories, also known as my code bases. So if I click on the I want to go to my repositories though, so I think I have to get off of my home page and go to the GitHub URL. So listen go address, listen go way right, listen backslash, listen wipe, listen slash, listen trap air red air, listen red odd yank sun, listen enter. Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah. That's my page. And so what I did was I said go address, but you can use that dense mouse grid to click on that address bar, and then you can use Talon letters to type out my name, and yeah. So listen go address. Listen copy that. So I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to add that to my website's customizations page. Listen customize website. Listen paste that. Listen comma. And then I'm going to create a voice command for it. Dictate dictate GitHub. Listen enter. Listen wipe. Listen space. Dictate GitHub. Okay, so there's this annoying bug in Windows Notepad that I've run into before, where it cuts off half of the words I spell using dictation mode, which sucks, but you've probably gotten the gist that managing a computer is a very complex operation, and doing so without hands is even more complex and not functional. Anyway, listen harp. Listen bat. Lie. Listen wipe. Listen wipe. Listen file save. Okay, so the file save command magically just saves files. No, not magically. It is a... Anyway, I don't care. You don't care. We're going back to my GitHub webpage, where I will pick out a code base to download and hook up to VScode. Listen touch. Open my GitHub. Listen open my GitHub. Listen open my GitHub. Listen tab close. Listen open my GitHub. Talon wake. Open my GitHub. Open GitHub. Okay. Talon sleep. Okay, so all those capital letters didn't do that thing any good. Uh, listen, focus, notepad. Listen, go down. Listen, clear away left. Listen, undo that. Listen, go away right. Listen, go away right. Listen, clear left. Listen, clear word left. Listen, clear word left. Listen, clear word left. Wipe. Talon wake. Wipe. 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 Phrase my GitHub. Wipe. 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 Gust. Sit. Trap. Harp. Urge. Bat. File save. Tab close. File save. Tab close. Wipe. 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 Window close. Open my GitHub. Talon sleep. Okay. Well, that was painful. But now that is how I took my webpage and added it to the list of websites Talon knows about and has associated with a GitHub with a Talon command. Now that we've done it the painful way, let's show it the way that I actually do it 90% of the time. Listen, Google hunt GitHub. Yes, so that Google hunt command goes to Google, types in the word GitHub, and that first link is let's go to GitHub. Listen air drum. Listen click air drum. And we're back, but now let's go ahead and go to listen look. Listen look. Listen click look. Listen go down. Listen enter. I don't want my dashboard. Listen crunch. Listen crunch. Listen click crunch. Listen click cap vest. And we're back to my repositories. Ugh. Too complicated. Anyway, so now that I've navigated to GitHub, let's go back to the video and see what that dude who has hands and a mouse is doing to download a repository into VScode. Okay. Listen focus. Listen enter. Listen tab last. Listen tab last. Oh boy, did I lose my video? I hope I didn't. Listen tab last. Listen tab last. Nope, there it is. Good. Listen enter. Listen media play. Halfway through. Woohoo! Boo. And it's starting over. So, so the word listen to media pause. Listen to wheel down. Listen to wheel down. Listen to wheel down. So at minute 202, it's gonna get the URL from GitHub repository. So let's go and to that section. Listen bat bat. Listen, click, bat, bat. Listen, media, pause. Okay, so I need to go to my GitHub. Listen, tab, next. Listen, tab, close. Listen, tab, close. Listen, tab, close. Listen, tab, close. So I need to go to my repository. Listen, page down. Listen, tab, next. My listing of repositories. And pick one to click on. Listen, downer. Listen, downer. I want a better mouse. I'm not sure that the Hiss mouse is better, but I have this fantasy that it is, so we'll go ahead and click on that one. Listen, bit trap. Listen, bat trap. Listen, click, bat trap. Okay. Back to the movie. Listen, tab, last. Listen, tab, close. Listen, tab, close. Listen, tab, last. Listen, media, play. Listen, media, pause. Okay, so we're going to click on the green code button, and so once we've clicked on the repository, the big green code button is the most commonly used button to get code on GitHub, which is why it's colored so differently from everything else on the page. Listen, tab, next. And the Rango has labeled it with AH, so I'm going to say click air harp in order to click on it. Listen, click air harp. Listen, tab, last. Listen, media, play. So I want to copy the URL thing, and I can click the copy button to copy it. Listen, media, pause. Listen, tab, next. So the copy button is labeled CE, so I need to say cap each. Listen, cap each. Listen, cap each. Listen, cap each. Well, okay, so the Rango thing is not quite working, which is why I need a dense mouse grid pointer again in order to actually copy it. Well, let me try a couple other things. Listen, tab. Listen, tab, last. Listen, tab, next. Listen, escape. Listen, air harp. Listen, click, air harp. Listen, click, cap each. Ah, I forgot the click. So, the problem with not using, with forcing Rango into explicit mode where I have to say click, is that I keep forgetting to say click. So, but if I don't have Rango in click, explicit click mode, then I can't use a dense mouse grid because both of them use combinations of letters in order to navigate your mouse to a particular coordinate, and they're using exactly the same commands. So I better keep Rango in explicit mode if I want to be able to use the mouse grid as a pointer. Again, too many customizations on top of each other. They're conflicting. Listen, tab blast. So I've got the URL. Now what do I do with it, dude? Listen, media play. So now I have a Git URL. This video is talking about Azure DevOps. I don't care because I don't use Azure. So I need to go back to VS Code and click on the clone repository button. Listen, media play. Listen, focus code. So I want to click on the clone repository button, and the only method I have to do that, well, there's two methods, but I like I like the one that I built better than the default one that comes. But you know what? Let's go ahead and show the default one, because why not? Listen, mouse grid. So this is the mouse grid that comes with Talon Community. And in order to click on that clone repository button, I need to select a region. Listen 1. So it's moved me to region 1 and then split that region into 9 other regions. Listen 8. And that managed to navigate my mouse actually quite a bit nicer than my dense mouse grid in this particular instance because it is slightly less buggy. Listen touch. And then it disappears. So that popped open a bar. That popped open a thing that says provide a repository URL or pick a repository source. Listen paste. Listen wipe. Listen paste. Listen wipe. Listen paste that. So I didn't copy the URL. Let's go back to my web page. Listen focus. Listen enter. Listen tab next. Listen click cap each. It says copy URL to clipboard, and then it said copied. Listen focus code. Listen touch. Listen paste that. And it still didn't copy the right URL. So I'm going to have to navigate with the mouse to actually copy that. Listen focus code. Listen focus edge. Listen cap drum. Let's go. Listen mouse grid. 5. Listen 5. Listen 5. Listen 2. Listen touch. Listen Duke. Listen Duke. Listen triplet. Listen triplet. Listen select all. Okay, there we go. Finally. So the magic command was select all, and now I can copy this. Listen copy that. And now, will it actually have gotten onto my clipboard? Let's go check it out. Because apparently Rango, well, I hypothesize. Rango doesn't actually maneuver the mouse with nearly the authority that Talon does. Talon has more privileges in this system than Rango does. Rango can't really get outside of its browser environment. And so when I used Rango to press the copy button, it didn't work. So let's see if using Talon and using the system level copy commands, let's see if that worked. Listen, focus code. Listen, focus code. Listen, mouse grid. Listen, 1. Listen, 8. Listen, touch. Listen, paste that. Listen, enter. And it did. So, where do I want to copy this repository? For me, I want to copy it into my Talon user directory because this is a Talon command set that I want available. Now, if you installed the community set according to regular installation instructions, it has created, customized for your machine, a set of commands that allow you to go directly to the Talon home directory without having to do any mouse clicking. Listen, go Talon home. Listen, go Talon home. Talon wake. Help search Talon home. Help search Talon home. Help search Talon. Help search home. Listen, help close. Talon sleep. Okay, so I'm gonna try Talon home. Just that command. Listen, Talon home. Listen, Talon wake. Talon wake. Talon home. Talon sleep. So, that window that said choose a folder to clone to is not this window. I think I want to figure out the command, if there is one, that will allow me to skip directly to the Talon directory. Listen, Talon, listen, window close. Listen, Talon help. Listen, window close. Okay, so where do I search for that? That's a good question. If I go to the help menus, I think there is I definitely know that there is a set of system paths that are generated that is used to go places like the Talon home directory, but I want to go in the files explorer. Listen, help active. Listen, Talon wake. Listen, help active. Talon wake. Help active. Talon sleep. Okay. So anyway, if this little file picker window that VScode has popped up, if some programmer has created a command set for it and stuck it in the community directory, it will show up in the active contexts So I'm going to browse through those and see if I can't find it, because having a command to allow me to, from this screen, without any copying shenanigans and without any awkward mouse clicking and copying, just be able to open that would be very useful. Listen, help close. Talon wake. Listen, Talon wake. Help active. Help next. Help next. Help previous. Help previous. Listen, touch. Touch. Help next. $20. Help 20. Help next. Help next. Help next. Help next. Help return. Help return. Help return. Talon sleep. So no, didn't do anything. So the question is, where do I get the path to the Talon home directory, and how do I get it into this window where I am going to clone his mouse? Listen, Talon wake. Talon wake. Talon sleep. So I'm going to do it with the mousing actions that I've been whining about. This is the only way I know how to do it. So this is the way I'm going to do it. The best way to do anything is the way that you remember. And the way I remember it is with mousing. Listen, Talon wake. Talon wake. Talon home. Help close. Talon sleep. So that popped open the Talon home directory, and I am going to use the mouse, listen mouse grid, to click on that path and copy it. Listen 2. Listen mouse grid. And the thing that's driving me nuts about this mouse grid is that the numbers are way too small. Listen 8. 5. Listen 5. Listen 2. Listen Duke. Listen triplet. Listen righty. So I navigated my mouse to that, I right-clicked on it with the command righty, and now I'm going to copy the address. Listen, go down. Listen, enter. And I'm going to copy it as text. Listen, window close. Now I'm going to navigate with my mouse again. Listen, mouse grid. To the place on this window that says desktop. Listen 4. Listen 8. Listen 7. Listen touch. Listen paste that. Listen enter. And even though we're not quite there yet. Listen go down. Listen escape. More mousing. Listen mouse grid. Listen mouse grid. Because I need to be in the user directory. The user directory is where you store all the command sets you want to use, where all the magic words that control this massive system happen. Listen 4. Listen 2. Listen 4. Listen mouse grid. Listen go up. Listen mouse grid. Listen go up. Touch. Listen touch. Listen go up. Okay, so I didn't quite get the mouse navigated there, but I did get it close enough that I could press the arrow button and get the user folder highlighted, and now I can press enter, listen enter, listen enter, and now I am there. I am in the user folder of Talon. I can select this repository as my destination for sticking his mouse, and that's what I'm going to do with the mousing again. Listen grid. Listen mouse grid. Listen 2. Listen 1. Listen escape. God damn it. Okay. Listen mouse grid. Listen 1. Listen 8. Listen touch. Listen touch. Listen paste that. Listen clear away right. Listen touch. Listen go up. Well, alright, so I have to start a whole dang thing over again. Listen focus edge. Listen copy that. Listen focus VScode. Listen touch. Listen paste that. Listen enter. Listen go Talon user. Talon wake. Help search user. Help next. Help search user. Help search Talon user. Help search Talon user. Help search Talon user. Help close. Help close. Go Talon home. Talon home. Mouse grid. Two. 8. 8. Escape. Mouse grid. Mouse grid. 8. 5. 2. 2. Touch. Enter. Righty. Go down. Enter. Window close. Mouse grid. 4. 8. 8. 7. 8. 8. Mouse grid. 4. 8. 6. 1. Touch. Mouse grid. 4. 8. 8. 8. 7. And that mouse grid's buggy. Escape. Mouse grid. Mouse grid. 1. 8. Touch. Focus. Enter. Copy that. Focus. Enter. Touch. Paste that. Enter. Mouse grid. Talon home. 8. 5. 2. Righty. Righty. Go down. Go down. Enter. Tab next. Focus. Enter. Mouse grid. Mouse grid. 8, 8, 8, touch, paste that, enter, go down, escape, mouse grid, 1, mouse grid, 7, 7, grid close, grid close, grid off, dense grid, harp, gust, touch, duke, 2, plex, horizontal whale, bigger grid, smaller grid, smaller grid, 2, 2, smaller grid, yank, yank, quench, touch, enter, friggin' finally. Talon sleep. Okay, so what I have done is I have managed to create a better mouse, or at least I have added a new mouse to my Talon system. It's already annoying me, but good God, did you see me like struggle for the past 30 minutes clicking my way through menus because I didn't know the commands? Good God. This mouse is at least a little bit more precise. Although I think I'll probably want to turn it off, or at least have the capacity to turn it off. But I don't, because I didn't engineer that into that particular mouse. Anyway, back to the movie. Grid close. Listening, grid close. Grid close. Listening, grid close. Focus. Focus. Listen, focus. Listen, focus. Touch. Listen, touch. Listen, enter. Okay, so I cloned a repository. I was able to get it out of my GitHub, off my GitHub, using various mousing commands in order to collect a new mouse. So I clicked on the green code button, and it opened up a bunch of options that were available. I copied it using an extremely painful method, and anyway, so I now have this mouse that is now hissy, and it will continue to respond to my voice. I just turned off my microphone so that it wouldn't, which is using hands. So that's the second time I've cheated. Well, I've had to use hands today in this whole 1 hour and 40-minute adventure. But I chose the folder, I selected the repository, I clicked that repository, and I opened it. And so, listen, media pause. Listen, media pause. Okay. So at this point, we've managed to, well, I've managed to get to the point in the video where it's like, we cloned the repository down and then asked, do you trust these authors? We didn't show that screen on my screen because I've already copied GitHub repositories code from myself before. And I assume that's why it skipped that particular step, although I'm not exactly sure. But anyway, let's continue on. We're halfway through the video in almost 2 hours, so maybe if I continue further, we'll be able to get this done in 4 hours. Listen, media play. Listen, media pause. So, it's telling me to navigate to the source control box again. So I'm going to do that. Listen, focus code. Touch. Touch. Listen, touch. Listen, focus. Listen, enter. Listen, enter. Listen, enter. Listen, enter. Media play. Listen, media play. Listen, media play. Okay, so if it shows me the commit messages that I successfully cloned down a repository, listen, focus code. Alright, it shows a source control, a message, and a commit button, so apparently I successfully cloned down a repository. Then it's at saying, this tutorial is saying that the ... specifically this ... righty, listen, righty. Listen, righty. Listen, touch. Listen, touch. It has all of the commands that I can use in order to save my stuff or to undo problematic changes that I've made. Cool. Let's continue on with the tutorial. Listen, focus code. Listen, focus edge. Listen, media play. Listen, media pause. So it says lower left-hand corner. Listen, focus code. So in the lower left-hand corner, my thing says master. So master and main are the same thing. Main is a much less colonizing name to name the main code base. So once I figure out how to actually install Git, I need to go back and figure out how to change all those names in my 100+ repositories. Because I don't really want to hang out with masters. I'd rather hang out on a main branch. But for now, I don't have that skill, and as you can see, I am clicking with my mouth. So for now, it will just have to stay what it is. Listen, focus. Listen, enter. Listen, enter. Listen, media play. Listen, media pause. Okay, so I'm going to go change a file in my repository. Listen, focus code. Listen, touch. So, let's go change my readme. Listen, touch. Listen, touch. Listen, page down. Listen, go way down. Listen, go way down. Listen, enter. I'm going to add to known issues the fact that it keeps blinking at me every time I even so much as add say the letter S, and that is very distracting, and I lose my place. Listen, dash. Space. Listen, space. Listen, space. Dictate. There is no current way to turn off the mouse, which is bad, period. Listen, file, save. And according to the video, when I made that change over on the left-hand side with all those branches, it should show up as, oh, you changed something. Touch. Listen, touch. Listen, go up. Listen, touch. So if I click on readme, it shows on the left hand, there was nothing there. And on the right hand, that green stuff, I added something. So, what does a tutorial say next? I wonder if I can just say media play from here and it will just start playing. Listen, media play. So the tutorial is showing that I have a nice side-by-side view, and now it's showing me how to add a commit message. Listen, media pause. So I have to write a message saying that there's something annoying about the way this mouse currently works. So commit message is a note to future me, and possibly to any collaborators, but mostly to me since I'm the only one that works on this particular code base. A note to future me about what I was doing. Listen, touch. Dictate I am annoyed that I cannot turn off and dictate the hiss mouse. Dictate the hiss mouse. Dictate and edit it to the issues in the README. Dictate period. Listen, touch. So it's telling me that there are no stage changes to commit. So apparently saving stuff doesn't quote unquote stage them. So I saved it to my local computer, but I didn't tell Git, hey, I need a copy of this. Basically, Git is my clerk, and he's very literally minded. And I didn't tell Git, copy this. And so it didn't. And I would like to stage this change, but let's see what the video says first. Listen, media play.